Reaction has continued to pour in from Canada's auto industry over a landmark deal announced with China yesterday. Here are some of the details. Canada will allow up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into Canada at a 6.1% tariff. Now that's down from the current 100%. In exchange, China will slash its duties on Canadian canola seed from 85% to 15% by March 1st. Canada also expects China will drop all tariffs on canola meal, lobsters, crabs and peas. With me now is Stephan Beatty, former Vice President and Corporate Secretary at Toyota Canada. He is now an industry consultant. Good evening and thanks for your time.
Good evening, actually. Thanks for having me on.
So there are long-term and short-term impacts of this decision, this trade deal with China on Ontario's auto industry. So let's start with the immediate first, Stephan. What will be the impact of 49,000 Chinese-made vehicles entering the market here?
Well, of course, it's not obvious that 49,000 vehicles show up overnight.
Yeah.
If we're talking about vehicles being brought in by somebody who's already in the marketplace, say a Volvo or Polestar or even Ford or General Motors, then those are companies that already have vehicles that are certified for the North American marketplace. But if we're talking about new Chinese entrants, they're going to have to make sure that their vehicles meet safety standards for North America and certain other regulatory hurdles. So it may take some time for those vehicles to arrive. Longer term, I think there are a couple of different possibilities. One is that it's companies that have historically been participants in the Canadian marketplace, the Teslas of this world, or indeed Volvo or Volkswagen or whoever, and in which case the world won't have shifted very much. What will happen is that companies will have access to lower cost Chinese products and bring those to market and supplement their product line. But if this is an opportunity for a company to really start up a new brand out of China, then 49,000 units can be quite significant. Think about it this way. Outside of pickup trucks, there were only two models in 2024 that sold more than 50,000 units. And both of those vehicles were built in Ontario. So depending on what the product is, who's importing it, and what market segment they target, it could be quite significant.
Stephan, I'm sure you've read the fine print more closely. Does it also say that the first lot of these 49,000 vehicles we're speaking of are actually Western companies, but being manufactured in China and coming into Canada? Is that what it says?
No, not from my understanding of it. It's open. They seem to be wanting to create an opportunity for joint ventures. But frankly, I think there's another piece of this policy that we haven't seen yet. And the government has been promising a national industrial policy for the auto sector. And word has it around Ottawa that we'll see that in the coming weeks. And that may have some of the mechanisms that they're looking at to create these sort of joint venture activities. Yeah. Now, that having been said, it's pretty clear that there are opportunities for Western companies to open up this market. After all, Tesla was the biggest importer of Chinese vehicles before the duties went on. And today, you've got a company like Stellantis that has a global partnership with a Chinese manufacturer called Leapmotor. So, if I were peering into my crystal ball, I would say that there is an opportunity for the federal government to leverage relationships like the Stellantis relationship and perhaps see some activity back at the Brampton plant.
I'm glad because, you see, the devil lies in the details, as we know. And, of course, the finer print will give us more inputs on what exactly this deal is in terms of what kind of vehicles and the manufacturers. But one last question about the consumer, though, Stephan. What will it mean for the consumer with these sort of vehicles coming in? Because at the moment, as we understand, electric vehicles are an expensive purchase.
Yeah, I think they're going to continue to be an expensive purchase, frankly. Think about it this way. Even at the $35,000 price point that the government wants to bring these vehicles in under, $35,000 times 100% duty times 49,000 vehicles is over $1.7 billion worth of tariff advantage. So if I were the importer of vehicles, I would look at that and say, all right, I want to be competitive in the marketplace, but I'm not going to slash my margins. I just want to be better priced than everybody else. So I'm not sure that this deal is what gets you truly low-cost electric vehicles in the Canadian marketplace, because I think what you're doing, if you head that way, is you're giving up profit margin, and I don't think that any company, Chinese or otherwise, is going to easily do that.
Right.
Now, I think China will take a vision of this for the long haul. They're going to want to build their market. They're going to want to create true Chinese brands. And I think this gives them the opportunity to understand the North American marketplace and gain that, that first foothold. But there is an opportunity for the Canadian government to leverage it back and to find ways to bring some more production to Canada, to look at partnering with Chinese companies as they expand around the world. There are opportunities in both directions, and so we're going to have to wait and see what that industrial policy looks like.
Yeah, Stephan Beatty, I appreciate you joining us tonight and, of course, clarifying and reading into the finer details there. Thanks so much, Stephan.
Thank you.